Hello and welcome to this latest podcast series titled Leading with Advanced Analytics as part of our Predictive AI World Forum. I'm your host. My name is Malay Upadhyay and I'm the CXO at SalesChoice. And in this series over the coming months, we will be featuring leaders from all across industries who have set an example and continue to show how to generate value by using advanced analytics to beat the odds. Our guest today is Carol Wilson, Director of Advanced Analytics at CanadaPost, and she will be talking to our CEO at SalesChoice, Dr. Cindy Gordon.
Carol, so delighted to be here with you today. And I thought we could begin, if you wouldn't mind, just share your title, role, and give us a little bit more context about your exciting career with CanadaPost and AI and data sciences.
Sure. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak with you today. My role is Director of Advanced Analytics for CanadaPost Corporation. And what I really do is I manage 7 data scientists. I have 7 spots, currently even hiring new ones as we speak. So the data scientists are responsible for taking all this data that CanadaPost receives, because we have a lot of granular data that comes in. We scan every parcel that goes through the mail system. And so we have lots and lots of data, and lots of data about our employees as well. And we want to play with that data to find optimizations for CanadaPost networking, for forecasting what our parcels will be. So we're really looking at machine learning and AI to help us do that and to move us forward as a technology company.
You know, it's there's so much when you think. I actually went online before our call and I looked at CanadaPost and how much they deliver. I mean, like,
Yes.
I think it's 88 billion shipments or something. And so, you know, high volume. And obviously, you know, we're into a lot of logistical challenges given COVID that they're all underway. Now, I'd like to really just appreciate, I mean, you're really fortunate to be one of the leaders in Canada in terms of having an AI and data sciences function. Is that integrated with the, you know, the BI analytics? Is it a separate group? You know, do you do both, you know, general BI and analytics and AI, or is it just your team is just the advanced geek squad?
Well, we have a lot of data literate people throughout the company. So part of what we do in advanced analytics is try and train other people in other departments to do a lot of their BI themselves, like the queries and digging through their data and understanding how our large database is structured and all the variables they can see in there. So we train them how they can do a lot of it themselves. But when they have like bigger questions and they're thinking, okay, how can we actually track what volumes are going to be 5 years from now, 15 years from now, and where is the growth going to happen? Is it going to be in major cities or is it going to be in the north? All this kind of, these big questions that what we need to do is that not only look at the past and where the past is going, but we also need to look at strategy. So our group is very close working with strategy because they look at GDP growth, what Canada is doing in the world, and what companies like Amazon are planning to do. So we get all that information together and we're able to put it together in a model to actually predict where CanadaPost may be in the future and where we need to grow and where we need to pull back.
Yeah, so it's very much predictive simulations and doing all kinds of scenario analytics, which makes it exciting because you're into the heart of the business and the business modeling, right? So how did you get started in this career? I mean, there's a story, so I'd love you to just, what did you, when you were a young girl, were you inspiring in all subjects? Did you have a bias to math and science or psychology? But let's start.
Well, I always like really admired the female scientists when I was growing up, because Marie Curie, reading about Marie Curie was one of my favorite things as a child. I loved her story, and I remembered that being one of the, so being a scientist or being a professor of some sort was always top of mind for me that I wanted to do. I also really like space, so I was thinking, okay, I want to be an astronaut, like those kind of, but it always had to do with science. So I went into college thinking I'd be an arts major, right? And really didn't like it at all. Did not fit in with the people that like to read a lot of novels and poetry and that kind of thing. I was like, so I took one course. The one course I took that was kind of math related was psychology statistics. It was the statistics course in psychology, and it was the second year course, and I fell in love. And I go, yes, this is where things actually equal something. It's more black and white. And I remember back then I was very black and white thinker. So the arts didn't do it for me, where math and things actually making sense and following a scientific norm were really important to me. So from then on, I majored in experimental psychology. So certainly not the kind of psychology that is clinical, where I try to help people. I was more interested in epidemiology, like the science of mental illness, or the science of mental health, how the brain works, that kind of, keeping it very science related. So I did a master's in experimental psychology. And what I realized as I tried to get out in the workforce after that, the things that really made me hireable as an employee were the things I learned along the way, not the theories I had about memory research. It was research methods, statistics, those kind of skills that I learned that actually made me able to get a job outside of academia. And that job was in market research. So I began as an analyst in market research company back in 1997, and I was very thankful for that full-time job. Being in the late 90s, a lot of jobs were contracts and hard to find full-time. And I stayed there for 13 years. And over those 13 years, I rose up to be their statistician, because I was really the only one in the business that understood what margin of error really was. And so I started telling them about that and working through there. And then I became an associate dealing with clients. And then my last job with them was of general manager for New Brunswick offices, the 3 offices we had there. And then one of my clients hired me, which was an international firm, slot manufacturer, as their director of data, product research and data analytics. So that was the first time I actually managed data scientists. Before, I was more acting like a data scientist. And in that job, so for those 6 years, I managed data scientists as well as research people. So I often tell to people that are starting out their university career, it's a winding road. You don't know, you just go, the door that opens, you go through it and you find what you like about it. If you don't like it, then take another door. Because I always thought growing up I'd just be a teacher, not just a teacher, but everyone I knew was teachers, so I thought I'd be a teacher. I didn't know there were jobs like this, like Director of Advanced Analytics. I would never even, thought of doing advanced analytics. So it's a very windy road that you go through in your life, and as long as you're happy every step of the way, then it's worked out.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear your story and this from multiple perspectives. One, the curiosity of sciences, English, going through learning the discipline to solve problems and rigor, and particularly understanding process to do research, and like you said, error margins and validation. So a lot of I would call it the approach to dissecting a challenging problem and constantly problem solving, builds up that skill competency. So those are some of the, I'd call it, technical skills. And obviously through that journey, you would be learning different methods of research. I saw that you did some narrative inquiry, which obviously would have been linguistics and cultural anthropological underpinnings, which again, in many ways you were ahead of your time. We just didn't necessarily have it called data sciences as a particular discipline. So I'm curious about your stories around the softer skills, because it's one thing in business to have all the methods down nailed, but if you step back and you look what it takes to become a director now in advanced analytics, what do you think are some of the softer skills that you've had to maybe learn along the way? Sometimes problem solvers just like to get things done quickly and they're not always patient. So I'm just curious in terms of your insights on the softer skills, emotional intelligence, and maybe also share maybe where you were and how you had to grow and had to stretch yourself to move into leadership positions.
Yes, well, one of the key things I think moving into leadership is to already have the reputation of being a leader among your peer group by those that see you. So people can see you as a leader even when you don't have the title. So often with some of my jobs, since I was in jobs for a long time, like the 13 years with one company and then 6 years with another, people would come to me as a person, even if I was at their peer group, I had been there a long time and I was seen as a leader. So certainly being aware of what reputation you kind of had. Are you the person that is always looking for help from other people, or are you also a person who is gone to for help? So certainly becoming very competent at the job you're at now, because what I find too often is people are looking at the next job and wanting to jump up and do the next thing and not giving 100% to what they're doing now. But one way I think is better in order to go up the ladder is to be excellent at the position you're at now. So as my father always said, like, if you're a ditch digger, be the best ditch digger there is, right? Take pride in that. So don't always look and you want to be the owner. You don't want to jump too fast, right? That because then the doors will open up to you faster than if you're kind of not doing a great job in the position you are now and keep saying, well, I'd be really great if I was a level up, right? No, that's not going to work. You have to be excellent at what you do. And I've always enjoyed every job at the level I was and took great pride in trying to be the best at it. Yeah.
Well, so I was going to summarize some of the points you mentioned. One would be peer credibility would be one of the key points. Obviously, execution excellence, being able to perform at the levels that demonstrate, results. The other one is, probably be patient and don't rush and make asks when it's very clear you're just not up to par. What other specific skills would come into bear? Because obviously through your English interest, you can write.
Yes.
You're very articulate. So there's other softer communication skills. So I'd just be curious on the other softer skills that are really important. I know with, being in the career field of AI like you are, that you do need to simplify, the insights. You don't need to go into all the methods, just to basically focus in on the results and the value contribution and the impact. And so there's that translation skill that sometimes in data scientists lack, the business communication side. So I just would be curious to how you're growing your data scientists so they can convert more, the potential in the company.
That is certainly something that I feel is kind of inherent in me. I've always been a good speaker and kind of talented in writing. So I've been able to write, but I have gotten some very good professors in the past or mentors in business who have given me critiques on my writing to help me along the way. And I still remember them to this day. I remember one professor, when he looked at I believe it was my master's thesis that I was writing, he said, Carol, take out every second word. And of course, he didn't mean literally take out every second word. It just meant it was way too wordy. Make your sentences shorter, say what you mean. And that's knowledge that has helped me throughout, where if no one had ever told me it was just too wordy and your sentences are like, a paragraph long, I would have kept doing it. So I think getting feedback like that and taking it to heart and not taking things too literally, like every second word, he's kind of being funny. And so I had to realize what words are really important in the sentence and don't bury the lead. One thing that really bothers me when people write, they go, you know, unlike this other category that didn't have an effect, the effect was found in, no, you start with the effect was found in this category. You don't start with something that is not the lead that you're trying to find, because you'll lose people. So these little things I learned from my mentors along the way really were valuable, because certainly I thought I could write, and I was all cocky that I could really write well, but then I still had things to learn. So knowing that you still had things to learn is important. As far as the speaking and being able to speak about things and make them so that other people who are not in your industry or not in your specialty understand, I've spoken at a lot of conferences where I'm talking about scales or margin of error, I'm talking about statistics, and I know a lot of the people use them, but they don't really have the fundamentals. So I would always tell stories about how it made sense to me when I was trying to learn how these blocks move together. Because I think of myself as, although hopefully above average intelligence, I'm no super brain. Like, things don't just come easily to me. They have to lock into place and make sense in my head. So when I'd be giving lectures, I would talk about how I started thinking about it when I was learning about it. And I found the students really appreciated that, and that it really helped, because I love seeing the light go on in their eyes that, oh yeah, I get it now. Because a lot of the times when people talk in the jargon of the business or the jargon of that technology, you lose them. So it kind of has to be brought down to earth kind of thing. But I don't know where that gift came from, but I'm pretty good at it, and I know I am, and I try to teach my data scientists to do the same. So I try and give them advice on how to do it.
So
And also
Toastmasters.
Toastmasters.
Yes,
Yeah.
Toastmasters is good. I went through all their programs much earlier in my early 30s and became a certified Toastmaster. So I'm just going to try and summarize some of the softer skills you've mentioned, because I think they're well proven in building leaders, like strong leaders. Obviously, the communication, the ability to be patient, to listen, to be able to make a clear point, and be specific about it early, versus waiting and people wait and wait for the clarity of what you're trying to say. So that kind of precision and timeliness is really quite key. You talked about mentors, and obviously in all the research in terms of what are the things that women are looking for of more, and if you think about what we're talking about, trying to attract more women into the field of AI and data sciences, how important has it been for you to either find mentors, seek them out? What makes a good mentor? Has it been helpful to you or not? Have you had to fire your mentors along the way because you've surpassed them? So I just love to hear some of the stories about mentorship, because it constantly comes up as one of the top requests of young women is to be mentored.
Right. All the mentors that I've had in the past have not been official mentors. I've gravitated to some people that were in leadership positions. Even some of them were my supervisors, and some of them were not my supervisors, but we just seem to get along well. So if you can find someone that you get along well, you kind of have the same thought process, like they understand when you speak and you understand when they speak. And so that's just kind of naturally how a lot of the mentors have come into my life, where I try to do what they do. So as I think of it, two different kind of mentors. There's the mentors where you sit down and you discuss your future and say, how can I get into this? What should I do with my career? And they're focused on you and trying to see how you can go forward. That's a great mentor to have. But you can also have those mentors that are mentoring at a distance. You're watching them, you're seeing how they behave, you're seeing what their past is, like how they grew up in the company, or how they behave in meetings. That's very important. I like to observe the people that I respect in meetings and see, okay, how often are they speaking? How often are they listening? Are they leaning in at the table, or are they leaning back? So what's their demeanor and the way that they confront problems and all that. So some of that, just by watching people that you respect, that you want to be like, is very important.
I'm really happy you talked about role modeling because there is so much if you're aware. Part of, I think, becoming a strong leader is to have perceptual vision and to be alert to all the players around and take it all in, and to really be clear about the kind of leader you want to be. And obviously that's emulating certain behaviors of others that you respect. And that is so, so true. I remember when I was a young executive at Xerox many years ago, and our president actually was a female, Diane McGarry, and she always came in on time, sat down, focused, ready to go. So what do? We focused, ready to go. Just,
Yes.
just for that kind of a commanding attention. We've got some serious decisions to make.
I'll tell you, one of the female leaders that I respect very much is Margaret Brigley from Narrative Research. She is the president and CEO of that company now. And what really I admire about her is that this is a very busy woman, very busy, but she never seems rushed. She always has time to talk to you. If you go to her office and ask a question, she's always got time for you, and she never seems frazzled, which I cannot say I emulate that perfectly, because at times I can get frazzled. But I really admired that in her. She just always seems put together and able to compartmentalize, able to not take the last meeting into this meeting, right? I think that's very important too, that you can leave, okay, I'm leaving that project behind, now I'm focused on you. So being present in the moment, very important.
Yes, being present in the moment is something I think all of us strive to hopefully master, because it demonstrates genuine listening and authenticity, right?
Yeah.
In terms of, let's talk about, I'm a young woman. I'd like to become maybe a chief data scientist. I've read the HBR article that said to be a chief data scientist, one of the sexiest jobs in the world. Curious, but how do I get started? What do you recommend? Do you recommend I do a BA? There's some perspectives of that. Then do I go do statistics? Do I do an MBA? Do I then do a master's in AI and data sciences? Should I do computing science first? What's the guarantee? Road? Is there a clear road in becoming a data scientist?
It's very varied currently, but I think in the future it'll get a little more streamlined, because right now my data scientists come from an array of backgrounds. Psychology, experimental psychology is the popular one. Engineering, industrial engineering several have that. Engineering is a great background to have to go into AI or data science. And also MBAs, mathematics. So they come from a array of that. Any of those could take you to being in the data science field, because what you're looking for is a program that has a lot of fundamental statistics and research methods in it, that you're going to really understand why statistics work, why modeling works, why simulations work. So all those will give you that kind of background. But what I'm seeing, the candidates that come to me now for positions, I'm seeing some very specialized master's degrees, like masters of data analytics, which didn't exist in my day, right? So there, I think maybe in the future, those that know they want to go into data science will have a clearer educational path. But as long as you're in the behavioral sciences or engineering, all that, I think you could certainly make a case for being a data scientist.
And that's a really good perspective. I'd like to do a build on that. And I also think that the foundations we're seeing even in philosophy, and then you can move to do a master's in data science. And one of the, I think, the most important attributions of being an incredible data scientist, curiosity, because you really have to uncover multiple possibilities and not accept, the first pathway. So that's kind of your perspective on being a really good researcher, but you're right, it's going to be a whole blend of skills. I think the part of it is having the right skills to solve the right use case, right, and the right problem. Because obviously, if I'm building a drone that needs software and advanced analytics and some AI on the patterns of the bees and how fast they're going to move to the crops, etc., you might assemble a different team of skilled, data scientists to solve that use case, versus if I'm doing facial recognition, I'd bring in a different set of skills and competencies. Or if I'm dealing with looking at shipments and routes in logistics, right? You're going to be looking for, patterning recognition and routing and stop information. So it's really, I think the key thing that I'm starting to realize is that it's almost like it'll become a skill competency, maybe for all leaders, because at the end of the day, with the intelligent world and the increased sensors of things. So, but you're right. But now the master's programs are out there. Now the PhD programs are out there, and the good news, we got great leaders like you, pioneering and making it all happen and driving the operational results. I'd like to move now to obviously you're in a fortunate position where you've got, some diverse skills. You've got a lot of data, like, wow. Like, I mean, you've got data, like a lot of data scientists constantly looking for data. So what are some of the types of challenges, that, an organization like Canada Post, needs to really solve with advanced AI data sciences that you couldn't do before? Is it more on the telematics front? I'm just curious on kind of the tough use cases, without, whatever you're comfortable to disclose, the challenges that you really, to solve for the company.
Well, certainly one of the basic challenges, I'll talk about a basic challenge and then our ideal challenge that we're dealing with. But the basic challenge we're dealing with, we have a lot of data coming in, but as with a lot of companies, the reason the data is being collected was not so you could do analysis on it later. It was being collected to actually get the product out there or whatever. For us, it's to get a package delivered from point A to point B. So that's the reason all these scans are going on. So when they're designing how to, what information to grab, what information to keep more than like a few minutes or a few hours, where to store the information and how to store it, how to design the databases, they're not thinking about us. So we're dealing with data that, we wish if it was our design, we would have made it this way. So a lot of our work is taking the data that's used in the operational sense, the operations, the huge operations of Canada Post, trying to get to every nook and cranny of Canada and worldwide, that we need to take all that data and then massage it and get it into a way that makes sense to us to do analytics on. And also the fact that a lot of these systems, Canada Post has been around for 150 years and not digital that whole time, but from the time it started to collect data digitally, different systems were created to solve this problem. And another system was created to solve this problem. So we know we're gathering data from this, but we didn't even know about this system that has all this other data. So awareness of all the data that's being collected by these silos throughout the company, that, it was built for one small purpose, but it may have data we want. So trying to collect them all, merge them all together, link them together is certainly a challenge before we can even get started at the fun stuff. So the other, challenge that we're really looking forward to, and using AI for this is something that we hope to do, is optimizing our network. So optimizing how we move mail from a plant to a depot, from a depot to a plant, because how many trucks is it going to take? How much can that depot handle? So we got capacity issues, we got time window. That depot may close at 5 o'clock, so the truck can't get there any later than 5 o'clock. So we got capacity, time issues, and highways. What order should you go to the depot in order to get to everybody before their time window closes? Whether or not this freight should be flown, go by rail or go by truck. So right now, the way we do this, it's a very complex way that this is figured out, but AI is now something we're looking at can we put all this data in together and have a model tell us what is the optimal way to do this, right? So that is a huge project that we think AI can help us with.
Yeah, that's very exciting, but you're so right in the sense of the, how most large mature organizations, they have just this diversified infrastructure with
Yeah.
different databases, and in order to really get to prime time, you need to get all the data. So, and that's often an area people have really underestimated, and AI needs easy access to do modeling, and I'm really glad you talked about that. So we're nearly at the top of the end, and I've got one last question for you.
Okay.
If you're going to summarize the top 3 takeaways from your incredible career that you want to sort of share out to the world, what would be the top 3 points you would say to develop a career now? And if you step back, I know you can always wave the magic wand, what would be the 3 takeaways that you must build, no matter which road you travel down, that will help you? What would be those 3 main messages?
Well, as you've mentioned this word several times, and it's patience. So, and patience in the way that you understand yourself and you understand others, because we often think everyone's like us, like, so I want it this way, so everyone else should want it this way. But some of the most useful sessions that I've had throughout my career is when kind of a psychologist or sociologist comes in and talks to us about how we look at things differently, like what type of personality you have, and how to communicate to people that are a different personality type. Because I've always been fast moving. I want things, now. Let's not talk about our kids and our home and all that. Let's just talk about data, because it's the most fun thing there is. And when I go up to other people and they want to small talk for a while to get comfy and everything, then that makes me uncomfortable. I just like, can I just tell you what I want and I'll move on? But I learned through all these sessions that when I want something from them, prepare myself before. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to talk about their kids for 5 minutes before I get with, because I'm coming to them with a request. And in the same way, if they're coming to me for a request, they know to come to my office and just say, Carol, I need this, da 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 da, and that will make me happiest, right? Rather than the, hi, how are you? How was your weekend? Like that kind of thing. So getting to know yourself and getting to know other people will help you be more patient with when they do things differently than you. You'll understand why they're doing that, and that it's okay. Everyone doesn't need to be like you, right? A next thing would be take responsibility. So one big thing that makes life so much easier is when there's an error, whatever, you take responsibility for your part and not pointing fingers at other people or trying to make it seem like someone else's problem. So taking responsibility is very important. The way I use it often is when we're talking about how things could have gone better, I will say my part of how I think I could have done better. And everyone kind of goes around and talks about how they could have done better. And we all think, okay, like this was helpful. We all came up with our own ways of how we could be better. And no one was saying, well, if that person had given me that, a little sooner, like, so it's more about all taking ownership of what we could have done. So taking responsibility, I think other people will respect you more, and that blaming others will just make people not respect you very much. So that's an important thing that we do, especially in our team. And the third one is one I mentioned a little bit earlier, is treat your current job as the most important job, because that will get you the respect of everyone around you. So don't look at your job as being beneath anything else. It is the most important job right now, and doing an excellent job at that, excelling at it, is what is going to grow you in your career. So always look at where you are now and do a great job on that, because that's what's going to open doors, not looking ahead down the road and going, oh, I wish I was a director already. No, I've always thought, just like going through school, I always thought the grade I was in was the greatest grade ever. And that's kind of the way I treat jobs too. The job I'm in now, I love it. Once I leave it, I may think of all the things I didn't like about it, but while I'm in it, You got to love your job.
Thank you so much, Carol. You know, it's so interesting to hear your story in the sense of, you know, earlier in your career, being a young girl, being curious and loving the science stories, but could see that you were really good in English and there were a lot of teachers around you, so you kind of went in that direction. That was one winding road you went down. But then as you discovered further the kinds of people you like to interact with, you realized and learned that you're a really good analytic, but the skills you learned in the art side probably really embellished some of your natural emotional intelligence skills, right? So, you know, I think, you know, in reality, to become a great data scientist like you are, you need a blend of right brain and left brain. And I really love the fact that you reinforced at the end being sensitive to knowing who you're speaking to and to modify your approach, because we're not all the same. And that's one of the wonderful things about human. And as you know, and I know, there's a whole field in AI that does that real-time psychographic profiling. And so, you know what, we can just look forward to our chip telling us, you know, what to say and say, here comes a high analytic. Here comes a high amiable.
Right.
Better ask about the kids, but you know, that's maybe something.
But one thing I was missing as I started my career was female role models in the sciences. I didn't have any. So that's why I thought I should go into the arts, because that's where, you know, a lot of the girls went. And if I never knew that going into something like engineering was a possibility for me, because engineering was just like probably 95% men, even more back then in the 80s. So now I'm just so happy when I see all these women going through an engineering program, which used to be so male-based. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. What a role model you are as one of a STEM leader and, you know, head of advanced analytics and AI at CanadaPost. We're just so thrilled to have had our time together. And thank you for being the trailblazer that you are and giving back to our community. Have a great day, Carol.
Thank you. Bye.